What's happening, my people? It's your boy Tinie Tempah. I'm currently down under in the one and only Australia, and I'm chatting to Milky. Let's go. For those that know who I am, what I do, my name's Tinie Tempah. I'm a rapper. I've been putting out music since about 2006, which feels like a lifetime away from where we are now. But I put out my first record when I was like 15 or 16. So I remember coming into the game really excitable, kind of just almost wanting to carve out my own lane for myself, but very inspired by, you know, artists who had come before me, the likes of Dizzy Rascal, the likes of Kano. I guess I was trying to find my place within that sort of world. As time went on and I continued to like experiment musically, work with more collaborators, work with more producers, I started to really find my own sound, and then it was about honing in on that sound and, you know, consolidating it, you know, making it a sound that, you know, people instantly recognize as soon as they hear it. That's got to be a Tinie record. I think where I'm at now, I've definitely matured a lot. I'm in my mid-30s now. I've gone away. I've got involved in other businesses. I've worked with other artists in the background, do you get what I mean, across their music, whether it be publishing or facilitating them in the studio. And I've had kids, you know. So as I've definitely matured in terms of my perspective, the way I see things, the way I may articulate things. However, the essence of my music is still the same. You know, it's all about bringing people together, good vibes, euphoria, all the highlights of life. I like to be in the highlights. Eat It Up is a song I released earlier this year. I absolutely love the record. Like, that's been my favorite record this year. And I was sitting on quite a bit of music, actually. So even most artists will tell you that they've had a long break, but what they won't tell you is that they're still in the studio recording like a nutcase, because it's like a muscle, right? So you have to keep exercising that muscle to get the best out of it. So over the years, I've still been going into the studio here and there. We have our own studios. So I've been sitting on a ton of music. However, I got into the studio with a producer called Skepsis, real exciting drum and bass producer. If you haven't heard of him, check him out. And I think it was his vibe, the production, the way the lyrics came about. Basically, with Eat It Up, it's almost me like returning to the arena of music. So this is me just making a bold statement about who I am, why I'm here, and the fact that, you know, when we press play on our sound, it's the biggest, it's the best, it's the most energetic. That's essentially what Eat It Up is. It's a statement. And I feel like the lyrics just came out super easy. Skepsis was super easy to work with. It actually happened in a very weird way. So we were doing a gig at Ministry of Sound. We booked Skepsis. Skepsis came on board for the gig, but eventually the gig did not happen and Skepsis couldn't play the gig. But we vowed that we would make a record, and Eat Up was the first thing we made. So when I was going through all my records, I have various different records that trigger different emotions, but just the energy, the hype of it, it felt like the first thing I should reintroduce myself with. And that's the story for you. So I've got a record called Closer, which features Abby Flynn. Again, it's in that sort of drum and bass, like liquid drum and bass mixed with jungle. And I think on the project that I've been working on, I really wanted to hone in on underground UK sonics, whether it be garage, drum and bass, grime, all the sounds that I heard growing up, especially in a nighttime capacity, you know, nightclubs, etc., because we're going through a crazy, crazy time where since the pandemic, we are losing a ton of our clubs. We're losing like 3 clubs a month. And they're saying by 2029, we're not going to have any more. So sonically, I wanted to celebrate all of those genres that I heard in my day coming through that are so iconic to England and Britain as a whole. And Closer is basically about 2 people in a relationship, but they're in 2 different places mentally. One is in a place where it's like, we've been together for this long and now it's time to move on to the next chapter. The other one's like, yeah, we've been together this long, but I still want to be me and I still want to, you know, do my own thing and da-da-da-da. And it's about how they navigate that within their relationship, you know, knowing that they both have something that's too good to lose, but they're both in 2 completely different places. Very deep, I know. But yeah, that's what it's about. And we made it with Metalheads, A-Side, big up Matt on the production, incredible. And like I said, yeah, it's just a mix of liquid drum and bass and jungle. Well, personally, I mean, considering that, you know, I put out my first bits of music over a decade ago, where UK rap has evolved to and where that's sitting now, even just to be in Australia and going out and about town and just hearing, you know, some of my favorite UK rappers just coming out of shops, cars. That to me is everything, because, you know, at the end of the day, I remember first starting out, UK rap on the global stage felt like a pipe dream. It felt like something that could never ever happen. So to see the way UK rap's being celebrated right now, it's incredible. I think my process is kind of similar to how it was when I first started making music. If anything, there's a lot more confidence in it. So I think now I'm of the kind of like mindset and theory and process that, you know, I'm just going to say the first thing that kind of comes into my mind, because this is ultimately a gift. I think when I was like 21, I wasn't thinking about it like that. But I think now it's like, you know what you're doing. You've done it loads of times before. Hear a beat. If the beat excites you within 20 seconds, 10 seconds, that's a good sign. If it doesn't excite you, basically just don't force anything. You know, make a song, make 3 songs. I saw something that Ed Sheeran said the other day where it was so poignant, where he was saying, don't even be afraid to make shit songs as well. You know, silly ideas, things that you've just got in your mind, just get them all out. And so I tend to kind of now do that, not just make a whole bunch of shit songs, but just get all the ideas out. And then my rule is that I won't judge the song until I've listened back to it the following day. So I'll go home, I won't listen to the record again, I'll rest, wake up, get on with my duties, and then later on in the day, I'll listen back to all the records I've made. And if they hold my attention at that point, I know I'm onto something good, and then I'll start refining that. If it doesn't hold my attention, I bin it straight away. I think before, I used to have the same process, but I used to be a lot more precious with the creations. And, you know, if you liken what musicians do to, you know, contemporary artists, if you will, or even, you know, master artists, you know, like Picasso and people like that, the way I see it is they just painted, right? They painted and painted and painted, and it was the fans that decided, oh, this is the masterpiece. Oh, I really like that one. It wasn't them that said, guys, you have to like this one because this is my favorite one. So I'm kind of treating my creative process like that now. The highlight, honestly, is just getting off the flight. That's definitely that's definitely a highlight. 23 hours in the air is not easy, boy. I know you Aussies be doing it all the time, you know, when it gets cold here, going over to Europe. So, you know, I don't want to complain. But yeah, 23 hours, considering I haven't done it for years, I was dreading it. But the minute I got off the plane, felt the sunshine, felt the energy of the people, I just felt right back at home, man. And I think that's what I really like about being here. Like it's literally on the other side of the world, but there's so many similarities with the UK that it doesn't feel too foreign, you know, and there's nothing wrong with it feeling foreign, but that familiarity kind of allowed me to ease into Australia super quick. And the love, like we've been in Brisbane and Sydney so far, the love has been unprecedented. Wherever we've gone, people have showed us love, left, right and centre. I think you guys are trying to get me to stay here, I think.
I went to London a few months ago, and I don't know why, but my flight route was like Sydney to Dallas, Dallas to London.
That is
29 hours.
ridiculous. Oh,
That's 29 hours of my life.
the worst. Yeah, it's horrible, man. But you got to do it, man. The world is there to be explored, man. You got to get it done. And you know, I thank God. You know, I put out records 15 years ago, and 15 years on, I'm still getting called and asked by people to come and play in certain places. Like, thank you guys. It's amazing. For me, when it comes to live music, it's one of the most important areas that an artist needs to hone in on and, you know, own. Me personally, I love social media, but I feel like I have the best connections with my fans when I'm right in front of them. Like literally, it could be 100 people, it could be 3, it could be 20,000, it could be 35,000 like they were in Sydney the other day. I think when I'm in front of them and I'm able to, because I feel like, you know, like we're living in a Zoom era, right? So loads of people are having meetings on Zoom and Teams and whatnot. And I always say there's so many different like unspoken frequencies, body language, energy that you just don't get from like just being on the screen. And I think it's exactly the same with performing. You know, you're never going to truly feel the artist's energy unless you're right in front of them. That's what I live for. I think I'm a great performer. I think my songs are high energy. So I think when I perform them, I bring them to life in a way that you couldn't imagine just by listening to it on its own. And so for me, it's one of the most important things. And that's why I stay in shape. That's why I just stay ready to, you know, to always give it my best.
We were at Fridayz in Sydney, and you were great. And some of my friends were there as well, and I met up with them. They were like they did the whole bowl cap.
Yeah, they were on the Pitbull train, yeah.
were like, people. But then one of them, I was on the phone the other night, and they were like that you were their favorite set.
That's amazing. That is amazing. And big up Pitbull as well. But again, I like that. That's also a good point. The great thing about live, especially when it comes to festivals, is you have such a variety of artists that it's a great way to win over new fans, like have new people join your community, because someone might have come to see a particular artist, but they just happen to be there while you're performing, and now you've won someone over, or they've heard a song that they knew before, or a new song that they really like, and you wouldn't really get that anywhere else, you know. So yeah, we've got to big up live music and let's keep it alive. I don't want to say too much, but just see this as like Tinie Tempah 2.0. I went away. I did something that like me personally was the most nerve-wracking thing to do, to take a step away from, you know, something you're so known for, something that you're celebrated for, almost at the peak of, you know, your journey as an artist. Is such a brave thing to do, and I was super nervous and I was super worried about even returning. Like, will people care? Will people be interested? But I'm so happy with the love that I've felt, and guys, like, I'm recharged, I'm revitalized. Like, in terms of taking time out, because you know what people have to realize is when you make your first album, it's however many years you've been alive worth of experience all going into that one project, and then people expect you to do it again the next year, and the next year after that, and the next year after that, and sometimes even twice in a year. But I think this gap that I've had has allowed me as a creative and as a sponge to just soak up all of my surroundings, whether it's the realization that, like, wow, we're losing, you know, our nighttime culture, and it's not just happening in the UK, it's happening globally. I want to be a voice for that. I want to advocate for that. I want to help the next generation understand the importance of live music and small venues. That's where you get your 10,000 hours, right? That's where you earn your stripes. That's how you get longevity as an artist as well, you know? We're also in the business of, like, you know, we have studios. So we're also in the business of, like, facilitating loads of artists, signing artists. We have a publishing company, made records for the likes of Drake, for the likes of Chris Brown, for the likes of Alicia Keys, Santan Dave. The list goes on and on and on. So there's a lot of stuff I've been doing in the background, but I feel like with Tinie Tempah 2.0, it's all going to surface and it's all going to, you know, manifest itself into loads more. So guys, just watch the space, watch the ride, tune in, you know where to find me. And yeah, let's have some fun. Michael Jackson, Dizzy Rascal, Eminem is definitely up there, Lil Wayne, Calvin Harris, Michael Jackson, Lupe Fiasco, The Call. I would have loved to have made the soundtrack for Sinners. I'm thinking, Are They Having Fun? Miley Cyrus. From my recollection, this is what my mum told me. It wasn't an actual song, it was an advert, it was a jingle. We used to have butter called Vitalite. It should have been like 30 years ago, I'm 36 now. And basically I used to sing this Vitalite jingle all the time. That's what my mum said. She might be lying though. She wouldn't lie. First concert I went to was like a community concert, you know, like how they do community festivals and they'll book like local acts. Sorry guys, I can't remember any of your names, I'm really sorry. But it was a local festival in South London, free for all the people from the community. And there was a couple local artists and maybe one slightly bigger artist than that. That's my first kind of recollection of any like music gig or show. I think I'd rather be a Backstreet Boy. Do you know what? I've always wanted to perform in China and Thailand. Yeah, I'm not too far now. Do you know what I mean? But yeah, I've always wanted to do that. Haven't done it yet. Probably Fred again. 10X by Grant Cardone. I'm reading it as we speak, just about to finish it. It's amazing, man. It's all about just reaching your full potential as a human being and having big, hairy, audacious goals, you know, crazy goals. We're all human beings. We all have the same amount of time in the day. Like, think big, do you get what I mean? Or go home. And I've really been getting a lot from that book right now, so I'd recommend that. I am probably going to listen to like some Miles Davis. It's something chilled. If we're going to go out, let's go out nice and chilled. Do you get what I mean? So probably some jazz. If I'm not listening to Miles Davis, I'll probably listen to John Coltrane, or probably go to some bossa nova, some Brazilian jazz, and just wait it out.